So the next layer, the heart mind, otherwise known as chitta in Sanskrit language. Now the Sanskrit Sanskrit that's always a challenge to say. Sanskrit language is what the yogic and tantric, the Buddhist yogic and tantric, what am I saying? The Buddhist and yogic tantric philosophy, it was originally written in and taught in and all that. So in that language, the heart mind is called chitta. And the point here is, it's one and the same thing. The heart and the mind look like different things, but they're one and the same things. Thoughts and emotions are the same things. Now, we have been told, we have been conditioned by our society to see them as separate things, to see thoughts as separate and then emotion as separate. In fact, we have been conditioned to sometimes deny emotion and increase thought. Like, oh, this guy is such a great guy, he thinks so well. Or this one is so weak, he's so emotional. You know what I mean? But it's the same thing. Thoughts and emotions are the same things. Two sides of the same thing. Okay? Now, the heart mind is actually an energy body. So it's not like thoughts are not just independent little electronic things and, emotions, little electronic whatever. It's an energy body. The heart mind is an energy body. So it's not a physical body, it's an energy body. And it too is dual. It is form and formless. It too is experienced personally, just like the physical body and stuff. We experience stuff personally, we experience the physical body personally. That's why we say myself and that kind of stuff. So thoughts and feelings or emotions are also experienced personally. That's why we tend to say, oh, my thoughts, my feelings. They're not actually mine, but the experience feels personal, okay? So thoughts and emotions are, thoughts and emotions are vibrations of the same thing, okay? They are two vibrations of the same spectrum, okay? So thoughts are the vibrational end that has a greater logical component to it, or you can call it linguistic component, or you can call it syntactic component. So thoughts are the vibrational end of that same one thing that have a greater logical, linear, linguistic component, whereas emotions are the other end of the same vibration with a greater affect or affective charge. So the same thing. So for example, a sad feeling is always tied to a story about it, to a thought form about the sadness. So you're not going to get a sad feeling with a happy thought. Does that make sense? You're not going to get a happy feeling with a sad thought. It's like they're one and the same thing. Does that make sense? So it's the same vibrational element, but it is experienced on one end as a thought and on the other end as an emotion, but it's the same thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so I think that's clear enough. Okay, now the heart mind is also impermanent. That much is obvious to everyone. Everybody knows that one moment you're gonna have one thought, and then the next thing it's gonna have another thought. It's like a monkey mind. We call it monkey mind. It's jumping all over the place. One moment you have this emotion, then the next moment you have another emotion. So they're both monkey mind or whatever you want to call them. Now, the funny but unfortunate thing is that although most people can see very clearly that the heart mind is impermanence, it has a high degree of impermanence. This energy body has a high degree of impermanence. It changes a lot all the time. Even though we can see that, for some weird reason, just because of the way we are built and how we are conditioned and how we then grow and get used to certain habits, we identify with this layer. How much suffering that creates. Oh man, how much suffering that creates. So many people suffer because of the identification they have with their thoughts and with their emotions. Look, you can enjoy the thoughts. No one is saying get rid of them. In fact, don't try to get rid of thoughts. You can't get rid of thoughts. They can settle down, but you can't get rid of them. You cannot push them out. You can allow them to settle, and they can calm down and settle until there's perfect stillness. Okay? That's what basically meditation and mindfulness, whatever, does. Stillness. But you cannot do it by force. So you cannot push, you cannot resist thoughts. You cannot get attached to them because you will suffer. You know? The impermanence will ensure that you suffer. So just enjoy them. Let them be. Just witness them. Witnessing. That's what mindfulness is all about. Witnessing. Okay? But never identify. You don't have to. A thought cannot force you to identify with it. An emotion cannot force you to identify with it. You have to make the choice to attach to it. When you go, oh, this guy made me feel so bad, my feelings are hurt. That is identification. You chose that. The guy may have done something you don't like, but you chose to identify with the emotion that arose. You chose to identify with the perception that you chose about what that guy did to you. You see what I'm saying? So, although you cannot control what thoughts and emotions bubble up, and you shouldn't try actually, you can choose not to identify with them. Okay? When you try to resist certain thoughts, they become a perversion and they actually increase. Have you noticed that? When you try to not think about certain things, you become too obsessed with that thing you're trying not to think about. So when you try to resist thoughts and emotions, they drive you mad. When you try to attach to thoughts and emotions, they drive you mad because soon they go, and then you feel crazy. So that is why so many people form addictions and habits, because they're trying to maintain certain thoughts and emotions. Their cravings. They're like, oh, I just want to stay happy, so let me take all these drugs or whatever the hell it is, or you get what I'm trying to say. They're trying to maintain certain thoughts and emotions, and they're trying to avoid certain other ones. They're trying to keep them out, and it doesn't work, but they still go for it. The mind changes even faster than the body. There's nothing you can do to change the impermanence. You cannot work at it at that level. You cannot work at it by trying to make it by force. Stay out, you thought, and you thought stay here, and you other one don't come here, whatever. So we form habits in a vain attempt to stabilize the mind. We attach and resist in a vain attempt to create a sense of security. We try to define how things should be, how the present moment should be, and that is what creates suffering. Instead of embracing how the present moment actually is, because it's already here. We're not talking about the next moment. The next moment may be different. So we're not trying to say, oh, don't have a preference for a future, or don't, we're not saying that. What we're saying is the here now is what it is. So when your thoughts and emotions are telling you, no, it shouldn't be like that, right here, right now, that's called an illusion. The heart mind creates conditioned, habitual, oversimplified, overgeneralized, and distorted illusions, and it then demands that these are true now. It tries to project them onto the present moment reality, and then it tries to insist that the now moment should match those illusions, those thoughts that they have, those emotions, So when you get angry at somebody, it's because they're doing something you think they should not be doing. And what is you're actually saying, but you don't want to say, is that reality is in conflict with the image you have formed in your mind. So instead of trying to get you to admit that maybe the image is a mistake, you think that the person or the thing in real life is the mistake. Okay? So the truth is, while the future moments may be different, okay? The future is an unmanifest possibility. Anything could happen. But the now moment has already collapsed into a reality. It is what it is. It's already what it is. The universe has said, this is acceptable here now. Okay? So if you try and fight it, you're going to suffer. It is the present moment. All suffering comes from not seeing things as they really are right here, right now, in the present moment. Now, listen carefully to this, because this is very important. Becoming free of the bondage of this identification is impossible unless you get direct experience of the deeper layers of self. I say again, without direct experience of the deeper layers of self, becoming free of the bondage of this identification with thoughts and emotions and body and stuff is pretty much next to impossible. Okay? Yet, with direct experience of the deeper layers of self, freedom and expansion is inevitable. It is guaranteed. That is why it's called waking up. So you see, we're looking at layer 4, 5, and 6. Unless you start to deliberately choose to be conscious of layers 3, 2, and 1, you will be stuck at identifying with layers 4, 5, and 6. That's what I'm trying to say. But when you choose to be conscious, deliberately awake to layers 3, 2, and 1, you will automatically become free. It's like, it's just the way the machine works. You don't have to do anything. That is why people say the power of awareness. Awareness itself is the liberator. You don't have to do anything. The awareness itself is a liberator. Okay? Does that make sense? Awareness itself is enlightenment. Awareness itself creates detachment from identification. Awareness itself makes you an untethered soul, a free and unlimited being in actual experience. You get what I'm saying? Anyways, we're not talking about the techniques right now. We're just revealing the map. So let's reveal the next layer.